People expect too much from stories these days. The end of Game of Thrones sucked. Star Wars sucks now. SpongeBob sucks now. What people don't realize is that when you try to write a story that lasts hundreds of hours, eventually you can't pull it off. Maybe if you're J.R.R. Tolkien dedicating your entire life to Lord of the Rings. But in general, these massive cultural landmark series are bound to collapse sooner or later. Almost nobody has ever landed the plane perfectly. Be thankful if they even get close. We're in a post-Game of Thrones PTSD loop where every fandom is waiting for the crash. Everyone is preloaded to panic in the final season. So the second something doesn't land perfectly, the internet loses its mind. And that's exactly what's happening here. Everybody knew Will was going to be gay. We saw that coming. The way they handled it, obviously, was terrible. The fire-breathing dragon in the room is that one scene, that let's hug it out, Fellowship of the Ring, you have my sword and my axe, coming out moment with the entire group. We know that bombed the entire show. Everything else is just a little bit of background noise. They dropped an emotionally indulgent, low-urgency, LGBT comfort Netflix scene in the middle of a full-scale apocalypse countdown. That's bad screenwriting. They apparently took 12 hours to film it, another 12 for reshoots, and every character's reaction shot. It was pure structured Netflix narrative. What's more important, saving the world or telling your friends in the 80s, hey guys, I'm gay? Terrible form. Max urgency, apocalypse countdown running, and we stop everything for a group therapy hug circle. Guys, I'm gay. Oh, we love you, bro. What the hell? Total stopping of momentum. When you watch that, it's like your jaw drops and the spaghetti falls out of your mouth when you're eating dinner. It felt modern, nauseating, HR stamped. Everybody hugging him, thanking him. No awkwardness, no friction, no uncertainty. That's not how people were in the 80s. It's like when they do it like that, it's just throwing it in everybody's face. This is the point of the story. I'm gay, I'm gay. In the real 80s, if somebody came out to his friends like that, they would have supported him, but they would have probably ragged on his ball sack. They would have teased him, messed with him, been rowdy with it. Kids back then were nuts. He would have got a noogie, and then they would have wrestled him to the ground and given him a high five. That could have added real 80s comedy and saved the moment. Instead, it was force-fed to hit representation beats. The scene wrecked 10 to 15 minutes of the show. And I'm scratching my head going, what are they doing here? If they had saved that for a quiet aftermath or a private moment with Joyce and Jonathan, 70% of the backlash would have disappeared. And when Robin came out earlier in an earlier season to reject Steve, it was subtle. Yeah, Netflix's gay narrative again, but it's cool. It doesn't derail the show, but this one did. But if we can just accept that one moment as the Netflix preachiness that everybody hates, and block it out, the rest is more or less forgivable. I'm not saying this is a masterpiece or the greatest series ever, but it's still very exciting, very gripping 80s nostalgia sci-fi entertainment. There are still plenty of hilarious jokes, well-written comedy, well-executed action sequences. Yeah, Vecna takes 100 bullets. Suspension of disbelief. It's fake. That's what Hollywood is. There are mistakes in Raiders of the Lost Ark in the original 1977 Star Wars. Hollywood screws up all the time, and we forgive them because we're enjoying it. The question is whether you're judging or enjoying it. And anybody can write beginnings. Beginnings are easy. Mike and Eleven hiding in the lab, a strange, unknown supernatural tension. It was the beginning. Of course it's going to work. Everybody's excited. What's going to happen next? You have these strong friendship arcs amongst 4 or 5 core boyhood friends riding their bikes, just like kids in the 80s did. Will disappears, and then there's an investigation. Suspense is built organically. And then by season 2 and 3, they got to increase the stakes, and yeah, they overdo it. Is the series slowly getting more tedious and collapsing? Probably, but is it still entertaining and fun? If you're not a grumpy curmudgeon just crying Hollywood tears into your coffee cup, yes. The Duffer Brothers promised season 5 would be balls to the wall, full out, no time for exposition or character relationships, just a flat-out gallop to the finish line. What we got was a lot of dialogue, a lot of science class, Dustin sitting there explaining superstring theory, wormholes, parallel worlds, inverse realities. I'm going, am I on the stem page of my TikTok? It was tedious. A lot of talking. Too many complex plot devices. Too much war room planning. Stakes explained instead of felt. That doesn't mean it completely failed. It was still moving forward. And the character bloat is real. They kept adding new characters because Hollywood thinks we have short attention spans, TikTok flipping brains. Where's the new lesbian girl? Her new girlfriend? The new colorful person? It would have been way cooler if they just kept most of the main characters from season 1 as the main characters. The core bike riding D&D kids. That's what captured our imagination. Now Will pours his heart out to a group of 15 lead characters. It's like watching an awkward AA meeting. And Ted Wheeler got robbed. He fought the Demogorgon off with a golf club, wound up in a coma. No one's in the hospital like, how's Dad doing? Original characters got sidelined hard, for sure. 11, Mike, the season 1 crew mostly in the background. This was a major mistake. But the cast aged out. There were long production breaks, the Hollywood strike didn't help. These kids are grown up now, and it feels awkward. These guys got older. It's like iCarly going to college and getting drunk. Will becomes a troubled cardboard cutout until he's gay and suddenly gets massive X-Men wizard power, stronger than 11, and then loses it and goes into a coma. I've heard people constantly complain about 11 doing duck lips into the camera because she's got fancy filler now. Didn't bother me. But there is some weird character convolutions for sure. But most of the characters are holding together. Mike hasn't become cowardly, 11 hasn't gone soft, Dustin hasn't gone to pure cynicism, Hopper hasn't gone passive, and Joyce is still engaged in everything. Still, new additions can work. Robin has been great, spirited, funny, creative, a bit wily. Phoebe from Friends energy, but more hyper. And she's a phenomenal actress. Holly, the little Wheeler sister brought forward, likely overused as she became practically the protagonist, but the young actress, Nell Fisher, does a fantastic job. She's precocious, clearly a well-raised person. There's a lot of complaining of bad acting, particularly Noah Schnapp, but seriously, look at what they've given him to work with in Will lately. I think he's doing just fine. Season 5 Part 1 had tons of momentum. Part 2 got bogged down by those STEM lectures. Dustin does a great job though, he's funny, but there was still forward momentum in the overall plot structures and in explaining what was happening and then going into it. Then there was the Nancy and Jonathan ambiguous breakup unproposal in the exotic matter melting part of the world. That was intriguing and original and emotionally spinning. I was like, okay, they talk about feelings while the world ends. That's part of why we make stories. They just did it too much, and it was out of balance. But many of those moments had good writing and good acting. It was refreshing to actually see a scene so original in this stage of the show. And the cheesy melting matter felt like a bad 80s set, and I was all for it. The scene with Max in the portal with Holly, that was strange because it broke some of the suspense. Like she's running toward the portal, she sees Lucas talking to her, she can hear running up that hill, the Kate Bush, and then she stops to explain to Holly that this isn't her portal, that she needs to find her own way back. Part of that was really great. The talisman she wears, that she is really her heroic persona, and all the stuff she's been embodying. It reinforced her character and her courage. But it drained tension at a moment, like when an Ultima 4 portal was literally closing. And after that, they run through to their respective portals and the suspense picks up right at the very last moment. The heartfelt character conversation had strong moments. They bonded over heroism, but it sapped the energy from a critical plot point. I just wish the super talented Sadie was given more to work with overall. Fingers crossed for the finale. We should be thankful that we got a pretty decent, exciting series that captured so many cool elements of 1980s fiction and cinema. Ghostbusters vibe with the Demogorgon dogs, like the Zool dogs, military occupation tropes like Red Dawn, Back to the Future time stuff, Vecna as a troubled 1950s Henry, that fetish for dropping an 80s world back 30 years into the 50s, kind of like Voldemort's orphan backstory in Harry Potter. This series revived 80s nostalgia in a massive way. The 1980s, the most creative decade in pop culture. Seminal blockbusters, video games, fashion, style, music. Pretty much the Godhead. Stranger Things brought all that back big time, and we should be thankful for it. Did they screw it up? Yeah, of course. Everybody screws these things up. It's seriously flawed, but it's still really exciting and interesting. Season 5 Part 1 had tons of momentum. Part 2 bogged down by STEM and science lectures and, but still forward momentum. Remember, not everyone is Tolkien or Shakespeare, and they shouldn't be. But this is not Game of Thrones Season 8 level meltdown. There, characters violated core motivations. Daenerys snapped, torched the place, her moral spine contradicted, unless you really thought all along that she's just a fireball wild Targaryen. But here, boundaries are still respected, internal rules hold even if convoluted, and emotional continuity exists. Tone drifted softer, less scary, more assurance, but characters hold firm. The story isn't destroyed, it's just not as good as we hoped. Netflix is preachy. I saw that meme, did you see it? Will grows up in a fatherless household, possessed by a demon. Turns out gay. Netflix cell phone. The internet reaction is hysterical, overdone, and unserious. Review bombing, tomatoes rotting, lowest IMDb scores ever, petitions with 350,000 people demanding rewrites for lost footage. That's entitlement, not critique. It's this post-Game of Thrones trauma mixed with social media narcissism. You didn't write it. You're not funding it. You're not an executive producer in Hollywood. If you want a better movie, go make your own. Demanding a redo is ridiculous, childish, stupid. It's unfortunate, it's flawed in a number of ways, but if you hate it that much, cancel Netflix. Just go buy VHS copies of the original Star Wars trilogy on eBay. Content creators are farming rage for clicks. Fandom is overreacting. Most of the hatred is aimed at one scene, not the whole story. We've created a culture where people review endings they haven't even emotionally reached yet. The show is not even finished, but everybody's declaring it ruined forever. Netflix messes up. They do woke overreach. The Will coming out scene was poorly done. But the season basically still works. There's still 1980s level goofball comedy, like the plan to infiltrate the military base with hidden tunnels under the toilets in the bathroom and to send the fat kid eating Doritos. That's like something out of Goonies. It's hilarious. There's still world-bending sci-fi intrigue, there's still good action fights and battles, and there's still emotional character moments that give the feels. We gotta snap out of this Hollywood perma-trauma loop. Game of Thrones, Star Wars sequels, Rings of Power disasters. Hold on, guys. Maybe it's not quite happening again. Maybe Luke Skywalker hasn't thrown his lightsaber off the side of a cliff yet. We have to wait for the finale doubleheader to see how they tie it up. Perfect season? No way. Complete train wreck ruining the entire series? I don't think so. Everybody wants Return of the King. We're not getting it. But fingers crossed. Let's see if Will can warg back into Vecna's mind and destroy him from within. Let's see what they do. I'll be back.